Here we are, and trying to kick off with this European Food Bank Federation virtual event entitled Food No Waste European Food Banks. And to kick off, according to the schedule, but not in time, we have two videos. The first one is from Mr. Jacques van der Schrik, President of the European Food Bank Federation. And then we have a welcoming word from Stella Krajdikas, I think, Commissioner for the Health and Food Safety European Commission. So I leave it to the technical people to start and kick off the welcoming notes.
Now it should be okay, right?
Yeah. Distinguished guests, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it is my pleasure to welcome you here today on behalf of the European Food Banks Federation. We are honored to celebrate the first International Day of Awareness of Food Loss with a virtual event, Food No Waste, European Food Banks, Concrete Answers for the People, for the Planet. A big thank you to our members and all the food bankers, public authorities and stakeholders who are present here today for having accepted our invitation. I am delighted that in the context of this virtual event, we are organizing 5 online meetings in collaboration with banks in Estonia, Italy, Malta, Norway, and Sweden to disseminate the EU guidelines on food donation, to better analyze the main opportunities and challenges to foster food donation both at European and national level. John Van Hengel had been volunteering at a local soup kitchen in Phoenix in the USA when a young mother told him that she was feeding her children with good food thrown away from grocery stores. This conversation with the young woman gave John the idea of a food bank, where food companies with excess food could supply it and charity could withdraw it for people in need. These were the simple beginnings. Today, the European Food Banks Federation brings together 430 food banks in 29 countries. Every day, they rescue food from the food supply chain and redistribute it to charities helping people in need. Donation is a beneficial solution. It increases access to food, protects and fosters the resilience of the food supply chain, and reduces the environmental impact of food waste on our planet. In the first half of 2020, the majority of European food banks are experiencing not only an increased food demand up to 50% compared to the pre-COVID period, but also a 50% increase of the amount of food redistributed in comparison with the 2019 levels. Food banks quickly adapted to an increasingly complex environment and are keeping the chain of solidarity alive. In the last few years, we have come a long way. The publication of Every Meal Matters in 2016, the establishment of the EU platform on food losses and food waste in 2016 as well, the drafting of the EU guidelines on food donation in 2017 and the release of the key recommendation for action in food waste prevention in 2019. Today, we are at a turning point. The support of food banks is more and more essential to ensure that no good food goes to waste. With the new European Green Deal and Farm-to-Fork strategy, we have the great opportunity to strengthen already existing collaborations and recognize food donation and the activity of food banks not as philanthropic option, but as an integral part of the food distribution system. I would like to conclude with a wish, quoting the address of His Holiness Pope Francis on the occasion of our annual convention 2019. What can we do?
Nie, właśnie, wiesz co, ja włączyłam się na coś.
Situation that is true
Oni mieli wypaśne, no. Tylko patrzę cały czas, mam, wiesz, ten miód włączony. No mam, a to się skończyło.
brute force and risk causing death.
Ale wiesz co, to jest teraz grupa, to się zaczęło o 12, więc tylko oni widocznie puszczają po prostu jego wypowiedź, nie wiem. To też to się trochę łamie.
And rebuild places together, even in this uncertain and challenging period.
Ja mam sałatkę, bo ja wiedziałam, że dzisiaj nie wyjdę.
I wish you a fruitful dialogue, and I'm looking forward to listening and contributing to your discussions.
O, możemy się podzielić z tymi. Mogę ci dać pół sałatki.
If you manage a team, you have to try Monday.com. Monday.com is a platform to track everything your team is working on. We use it for all our projects: marketing, product development, HR, creative productions. I love Monday.com because it's totally custom.
Okay.
No, wait. Okay.
Thank you for that introduction by Mr. Jacques van der Schrik. And I think now we go into the second video by Her Excellency Stella Kraidikis, who is the Commissioner for Health and Food Safety of the European Commission. So, in your hands, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, on the occasion of the first International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste, I'm delighted to welcome you to the stakeholder dialogue. The daily work of the European Food Banks Federation and its members is crucial in preventing food waste while people are hungry. As European Commissioner for Health and Food Safety, I cannot thank you enough for your dedication. As you know, the Commission has adopted guidelines in order to support food donation. By redistributing safe food, we can fight hunger and save valuable resources, which otherwise might have gone to waste. I would like to thank the European Federation of Food Banks for their important contribution in this. The most recent estimates show that 20% of food produced in the EU is lost or wasted. And at the same time, 33 million people cannot afford a quality meal every second day. Wasting food is quite simply inexcusable from a human perspective, as well as considering the pressure on our ecosystem and climate. During the months of the coronavirus pandemic, we have seen many examples of powerful collaboration. I'm grateful for the efforts of farmers, food businesses, food banks, and other organizations who have worked tirelessly throughout the pandemic to ensure food is available to citizens across the EU. There is an urgent need to redesign our food system, made even clearer by the ongoing pandemic. The Farm-to-Fork strategy, which is a key part of the European Green Deal, puts forward a series of actions to enable the transition to a sustainable food system. We must safeguard food security and ensure access to healthy diets sourced from a healthy planet. Reducing food losses and food waste is an integral part of the strategy. And that is why we will be proposing legally binding targets to reduce food waste in the EU by 2023. Importantly, member states are already obliged to measure and report on food waste levels. And we have already made it easier to donate unsold food and to use food where appropriate as animal feed. The EU food donation guidelines aim to facilitate compliance of providers and recipients of surplus food with relevant EU legal requirements and promote a common interpretation by member states of the EU rules on the redistribution of surplus food. We have already launched a 2-year pilot project to access food donation practices in member states and to promote the uptake of the EU food donation guidelines. The stakeholder dialogues happening today are so important. They allow you to become more familiar with these guidelines and exchange best practices. And they should help you to challenge any remaining barriers to food redistribution at national level. I call upon all food operators, from farm to fork, and public authorities to work closely with you to make sustainable food systems a reality. Surplus food should feed people, not go in the bin. There is no time to waste. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that introduction from Her Excellency Stella Kraitikis. Sorry for the maybe misspelling or interpretation of her surname. However, since we are almost halfway through the time that was allotted, I think we should go straight into the round table discussion. And we should have with us Angela Frigo. I've seen Angela somewhere. And Annie Fallon. I see Annie there. And Mr. Sylvan Magro from Daril Kaptan as being one of the administrators there. And Mr. Ronald Galia, Director for Daril Winds, also a beneficiary of the Food Bank Federation. So this discussion for Malta has a title of Food No Waste, Food Donation in Malta for the People and for the Planet. So we should have with us also Honorary Anton Refalo, Minister for Agriculture and Fisheries, but I do not see him, so we were told it could be that he is a little bit late. We will always keep an eye for the Honorable Minister, and when he shows, we will announce him. So I will kick off the discussion, and obviously Irene Shkembri, who is the chairperson for the Malta Food Bank Foundation. So the discussion, as we know, is about food waste. We have in tons in the European Union 88 million tons of food being wasted every year. 88 million tons. That is worth 143 billion euros, and that is the estimate of 2016. So I open the floor to whoever wants to discuss, but you need to go in turns, otherwise there will be a confusion when we come to virtual events. So you can unmute your microphone and you can discuss. If somebody else is discussing, please wait for that person to finish and then you can discuss yourself. So I leave it to you, whoever wants to start, maybe Annie being the secretary for the food bank. So Annie, I leave it to you. 88 million tons of food. Where are we going? How can we benefit from not throwing these 88 million tons of food?
Thank you, Lino. I think we have a little program of speakers. So, I mean, I will begin if no one objects. I was just going to present a little bit of what the Malta Food Bank has been doing over the last couple of years, and our contribution to or to reducing food waste. So I'd start with saying good afternoon, everyone. My name is Annie, and I'm secretary of the Malta Food Bank Foundation. And as you may have realized, the Malta Food Bank is the smallest, I think, of the FEBA affiliated food banks. And we're still young and still growing, not just because of the size of Malta, which is tiny, but also in terms of our operations. In fact, the talks and information I've been privy to earlier this morning have really shown that up. We really are small, and so some of the statistics I'll give you today are more in terms of thousands of kilos rather than thousands of tons, which is more likely for most of the countries throughout Europe. And to give some, I think we have a few non-Maltese guests here. So Malta has a land area of about 316 square kilometers with a population of around 500,000. In 2018, the number of those living in households at risk of poverty was just over 82,700. Now that's about 17% of the population. The average income that year was around 34,600 per household. And of the 17% of those at risk of poverty, the income was below 9,200 euros. So we do have an issue here in Malta. At the food bank, we're currently 6 members on the board of administrators, all volunteers with no paid positions. And we're assisted by one very dedicated veteran volunteer who I thought was here, but I know she was around this morning. We're managing to progress despite regular setbacks due to the limited time that each of us can give due to our full-time, our day jobs, our full-time work and other personal commitments. So we do what we can under the guidance of our tenacious chairperson, Irene there, and we are steadily increasing our food donation turnover whilst widening our contacts. As part of this work, the foundation actively seeks to educate about the issue of food waste and how to prevent it by both encouraging the donation of unused food that would otherwise be thrown away and by enabling the distribution of such edible but non-sellable food to people in need. In fact, the reduction of food waste being one of our core aims is one of the things that distinguishes us from other food distribution charities in Malta. Over the past 2 years, the work of the food bank has become more visible to the general public. We've been participating in several events, giving interviews and news items in the national media. We've created a Facebook page, and shortly we will have a website up and running with linked email addresses. So what about the food? Well, last year the food bank managed to distribute 4,790 kilos of food. That's the kilos, not the ton. Worth approximately 16,000 euros, which we'd received from several donors, but mainly 3 large donors in particular that we collaborate with and who are commercial food importers. The food was then distributed to 9 charities and partner NGOs. This year we've already exceeded that with 5,500 kilos of food up to the end of this month. And that was worth approximately 22,000 euros, and which translates into about 25,000 meals. We'd be happy to think that this was due to us reaching some of those that we missed last year, but sadly the COVID-19 situation has resulted in the increasing demand, many times greater than our normal situation. We've lost jobs and incomes affecting a significant part of the country, like most countries at the moment. So we hope we've risen to the challenge though. During the first wave of the pandemic, we were given over 1,700 kilos of fresh vegetables and fruit by our government, much of which would otherwise have been thrown away. This involved one of our administrators collecting, sorting, and distributing it within a short period of time to ensure the produce was of a reasonable standard and still fresh when reaching its final destination. This was just before we got a cold room up and running as well, but which we now have, so we can accept and stock shorter shelf life products and other fresh produce. Our work has also been made easier in recent months by the kind donation of pallets by one local company and a palletizer by another. So despite the low number and presence of volunteers, the foundation has been managing to receive and distribute a significant amount of food items. Now we're looking forward to the future with the hope of new resources and wider coverage to increase our collection of waste food in particular and improve upon the efficiency and scale of our distribution. Our wish for Malta is that eventually there will be legislation that ensures that no food can be thrown away. We wish that all surplus, all damaged, all leftover foods at all stages of production, importation, retail catering, etc., gets used and gets used by those who need it most. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Annie. Very insightful into what Malta is doing. How I would like to take this to Angela Frigo. How does this compare to what is happening across the EU, to other countries? And would that also have a weight in regards to, I've heard Annie saying that any damaged goods, but within the guidelines of the EU, which were issued on the 14th October 2017, which is not like 3 years ago, food donations, especially perishable ones, need to be of the same standard as in catering or if you would be buying it. So what is your take on this, Angela? So I'll leave the floor to you and maybe you can elaborate.
Yes. So thank you very much. Well, I'll start saying that today we are very happy because we can celebrate the first ever International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste. And I will say that this has been our everyday life since 1984, when the first European food banks was established in Paris, in France. And we are also happy that today, through this virtual platform and this online meeting, we can share the experience with the Malta Food Bank Foundation. And we know that the team of the Malta Food Bank Foundation, and in particular Irene Scambry, they are very committed and they bring a lot of enthusiasm and passion in the daily activity that they are doing in Malta. And even if the food bank in Malta is quite new, and it's a small country in comparison with other European countries, their contribution is essential to the prevention of food waste and the reduction of food insecurity in Europe. So just to give you a few numbers about the European Food Banks Federation, we represent 430 food banks in 29 European countries, and they daily recover and redistribute surplus food. So it means safe and edible food that for very different reasons cannot be sold to the consumer, cannot be put on the shelves of the supermarkets. It's recovered and by the food banks, and it's redistributed for free to charities that assist people in need. And as you can imagine, the impact of the COVID-19 in Europe is really huge, and we are already experiencing a 30% increase of food demand in Europe, which is usually considered a rich continent, but we are already experiencing an increase of food demand. And at the same time, the food banks are also managing a huge quantities of food in comparison to the same levels in 2019. So this is our daily activity. And as I said, in Europe, it started in 1984. So we have been active for more than 35 years in our continent. And I would say that the EU guidelines of food donation are an essential tool for the food banks, but also for the food supply chain, for the charities, so for the network of solidarity, which is made of the food supply chain, the food banks, and the charities, because the EU guidelines on food donation, well, as you said, they were published in 2017 by the EU platform on food losses and waste. And we had the honor to be involved in the drafting of these guidelines. And it was really, I would say, a miracle, because the EU platform on food losses and food waste was established in 2016. And after 1 year, we already published the guidelines. So for at European level, it was really an amazing result, because 1 year in the European process is really a short time. And they are a very useful tool because they give a clear interpretation of European legislation as regards food donation, so as regards our core mission. And with these guidelines, which are also translated in all the EU official languages, we can know how to interpret European legislation and how to facilitate and how to foster food donation at national level. And so these guidelines address a lot of different issues, hygiene and food safety, because this is a very important issue, because as you said, especially when we are dealing with perishable food, with fresh food or frozen food, we have to ensure, we as food banks, we have to ensure hygiene and food safety for the benefit of the donor, so of the food supply chain, but also for the benefit of the charities and people in need who will receive the food. There is also clear interpretation about food labeling, how to interpret the expiry dates. So is it possible to donate the food after the best before date? Yes, and this is really clear, crystal clear if you read the guidelines, and how to manage the food with a use by date. But there are also clear indication in terms of liability. So what is the liability of the donor? What is the liability of the food bank and of the charities? And there are also some indications as regards fiscal incentives. So how to foster even more food donors to donate surplus food to the food bank. So I kindly invite you all to read these guidelines, because are an essential tool for the daily activity of the food banks. And if we want to work together with the food supply chain, but also with the charities, we can use these guidelines as the starting point to leverage even more our collaboration.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Angela. For all those who do not know me, my profession is in food safety management, and always my view was that food needs to be safe. And I heard the EU Commissioner stating very clearly redistribution of safe food. We are talking here about giving
We lost you, Lino.
Hi, apparently Lino has a problem with the internet connection. So, okay, he's entering the meeting again. Maybe now it will work. Okay, Lino?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that. It's technology for you. As I was saying, we need to redistribute safe food to our beneficiaries, to our people who are receiving the food. And we have to make sure that that works in not just a one-to-one, but also as a structure. So I am going to ask now Ronald Gallia, who is a beneficiary for Dar el Went, which is one of the NGOs locally. Ronald, when you receive food, when you are given this God blessing that you have in your hands, food that somebody has donated, how do you go about it, as in storing it? Do you have the facilities? Do you encounter barriers of how do you redistribute that food? What do you do with it? And all of the connecting factors to make sure that the food is safe and within the parameters of the guidelines of the EU, which were, as we said, published in 2017. So I'll leave it to you, Ronald.
Okay. So first of all, I wish to thank Irene and the board of the people that are helping Irene from the Malta Food Federation. We run 3 residential homes, and we cater for about 43 disabled people. And also we have other persons with special needs that are using our facilities. We have a built-in freezer. So all the food that is donated goes, first of all, straight to this built-in freezer, and then we select according to the date which need to be used before then the others. So we are very careful because, as you know, we have inspectors coming, seeing what we are doing, senders authority. So we have to be very careful. What I wanted to say also, there is a big abundance of food that is not being used. It is being thrown away in Malta. Mostly I would expect from hotels and also from farmers, because I have encountered many times farmers that they do not collect their crops because prices have gone down. And so it's not worth it for them to use these crops, and they destruct them and plant other crops. Maybe it would be a good idea for them or for the Multi-Food Federation to discuss with the ministry if these crops could still be collected by the farmers, and they can at least be paid some little fee for these crops, and they can be distributed. That way, food is not wasted. Again, the food that we are given, it's pasta, fish, meat, cakes, all this food which would have been destructed is being used, it's being distributed to our clients. So I think it's a good experiment that was started in Malta by the Food Bank, and I think us and other NGOs are benefiting from this project.
Okay, thank you very much, Ronald. We have in food losses, we have 40% of the losses happening, give and take. So in developed countries, 40% of food losses happen at harvest. Okay, in developing countries. And in industrial countries, 40% of the waste is at retail or at consumption level. So that means that in developing countries, they do not have the equipment of picking up all the harvest, and when they do, even in storage, it will go off. And in industrial countries, we have that being wasted at retail, so in the shops, because of the best before or the use by, and also at consumer level. That means the consumer who buys food in excess because of the buy one and get one free, or buying in excess, or also cooking too much and then thrown away. Now, with the EU guidelines, any domestic household can donate without any restrictions. With catering establishments or anybody who is established has to go by the guidelines, by whatever is written in the guidelines. So that prompts me to say, okay, so where are we mismanaging food? Why are we mismanaging such a big amount? We're talking about, in total, as we said, in countries, we're throwing about 88 million tons, which in total is about 20% of all food produced in Europe. And that's a big number. We also contribute to 8% of the global greenhouse gas emissions by throwing away this food in landfills. So we are like, it's a sword, double-edged sword, where we are doing so much damage. So how can we reverse this damage into utilizing something which is being excessively grown, excessively mismanaged? And I would like to bring in Sylvan Magro. So Sylvan, if you can give us your insight on this, and how would you see this being managed better, especially in Malta? Do we have Sylvan here?
Yes. Hi all. Basically, Malta, by the means of the Malta Food Bank Foundation, they're doing a great deal in saving up food. We need to promote more and educate more people about food waste, because this is quite a new concept in Malta. So the population still needs to adjust to it, and they need to be more aware of it. We need also to be in contact also with importers and local distributors when it comes to food as well, to explain to them that when they see that food is coming towards its end, they do not leave it towards the end so that it will expire. And I mean, due to our regulations, we can't use due to our standards. So it is important this education to be enhanced and enforced also by different entities. Even we need also certain standards from the government, we need backup of legislation to safeguard this waste, food loss, to be exposed.
Do we actually need the government, or can it be done through self-management? I heard you say about food not being able to be given, but best before food and use by food is not the same. One is a quality issue,
yes,
and the other one is a safety issue.
Yes,
so
sure.
Best before food, if it's past that date, can still be used, and it is actually in the guidelines that it can be done. So would you accept food coming to your organization if the best before date has passed? And what would you do with that? Would you use the FIFO system, the first in, first out system?
Sure.
And how would you go about it? I'll leave you.
Yes, basically, yes, we do use that sort of food because it helps us also, since we're an NGO, in obviously our financial matter. So our main focus, even from our budgets, is to go through donations and through cost cutting. Mainly, we start off by utilizing the most the food that's going to be towards its end, and then we continue with that system kind of thing. We have our own cooks that they have a storage system. They've got an in-house storage system that when a food comes in donated, we see its dates and what's not, and they do it accordingly to utilize first. We also alternate our meals according to what is given to us, so that we definitely do not waste any food.
Perfect, thank you. Annie, I would like to direct a question to you. What cooperation do you find from your suppliers? Do you find it like on a mutual agreement, or will they call you up, or do you have to call them up for food to be donated? Will you all at any time be inundated with a product and have excess that you do not know how to handle it? What is the situation with that?
Thank you, Lino. Can I pass you on to Irene? Irene, would you be able to reply to this one? But yes.
Yes, of course. I was keeping Irene for the cherry on the pie. So.
Okay.
Okay, hi, hello everybody, and thanks for your contributions. As to donations, yes, incidentally, the first donation ever was given by a retailer, and it was to our standards a huge donation, which mainly consisted of sweets. However, I was kind of, what am I going to do? Should I accept it or should I not? But I said, being the first donation, that is when we started off, quite a few years back now, I said, yes, of course, I will accept it anyway. I must say that we never lost one single sweet of that. So somehow we distributed it. And we had an advantage on that product, on that item, because the best before date wasn't so close. Had it been close, then I would have had faced a problem. However, before I accepted it, I was wise enough in asking what is the best before date for that product. Having that given to me, I said, okay, I have the luxury of keeping that amount of sweets there until it will be all distributed. So that was one that was done. However, if you have an amount of food that best before day is so close, then that would have been a problem. Thank God we haven't faced it so far. I must say that yes, as well, we'll get food that is close to, but then before I accepted, it's as Ronald and Sylvain can say, I get in touch immediately with the NGOs and I'll ask them whether they can receive it. So this way I would have distributed it already before I accepted the donation. So far everything seemed to have moved smoothly. Had we ever had excess? No, not really. As happened with the donation of fruit and veg, yes. And we were worried because this came at a time when the weather started getting warmer. And at the time we didn't have our refrigerated freezer walk-in adjusted. So we didn't have that in a good working order. So we had to be very careful. And as both Ronald, because they are here, and Silva know, most of the time that product went straight from the market to the NGO, which was, we couldn't do it any better. I was, yes, offered food which best before date had already been over. And with that, then I had my queries. So I discussed, and I thought that it's not all that safe to accept that kind of food. It's a shame because when the food is frozen, but it was always frozen. I do not mean that it was out on the shelves or on the coolers up to some time, and then they froze it to lengthen its time. I'm talking about frozen food as was manufactured, being frozen and continued in that cold chain. So it kept on being frozen. With that, I'm pretty hesitant because I do feel very conscious about why should we waste that food? Why should we refuse it? Of course, the decision lies with us. And then there is that liability, of course, and there's a lot of responsibilities to shoulder being a food bank. And I'm sure that you've got a good advice for us on what to do in these circumstances. So I'm passing on the buck to you, Lino.
Okay, as we said, 40% of food waste in industrial countries, because let's talk about us, is in retail. Not, I'm here.
Okay.
So it's, yeah, I'm here, don't worry. 47 million tons are generated in households. Households, that means that not the catering, but that's more than half of what we throw away in Europe, which is 88 million tons. We are talking about 47 million tons is thrown at household level. So what I am understanding here is that we need to educate more the households in managing their food, what they need to buy, when they need to buy it, and probably surpass all these marketing schemes, which is the word scheme in the negative sense, where they trick you into buying more than you need. With that being said, we need to educate also that when this food is coming to its date, they have no legal obligation or liability to be able to give it away to other people, because it is explicit in the guidelines that food which is being given from a household to a household has no legal obligation. So what I'm saying here is that we need to educate more. We need to get the word out there more about what we are doing to the planet, and in the end it's coming to bite us in the behind of having 8% of global gas house emissions, which as we know we have then the global warming problem. So because of the time constraints, we are running like 14 minutes away from the end of this discussion. I would like to give the floor to each and every person who was involved. And if there's somebody who would like to pass on a message, please do so now before the closing statements are done, with Irene Schembri being the one doing the roundup. So if anybody has anything to add on, not from the panel, I mean, okay, Annie, you can go. It's okay.
Yeah, it's just a small thing on education. It comes in many varieties, in that not just to educate individual households into how to be more efficient in their cooking and use of food, but also when it comes to donations. I mean, the Maltese, we're very generous, and when it's realized that there are many people in poverty and there's a call for food, the first thing they do is go out and buy that food, and you think, no. So that's adding to the waste problem, you know. Just, we have to I mean, this is where government would come in and help as well, in that we try and focus on, see what you have in your cupboard that you can that you won't be using or that you won't need to use, and donate from that part. Okay, it's the same. It's from your heart. It's not any less. And so that's the type of educational campaign that we would be needing, I think.
Okay, I'm going to put a question to all panel members. So you can bounce on this and make your closing statement. What would you like to see? And what improvements can the current system have to experience less food waste? So we'll start again with you, Annie, and you can make your closing statement, and then from there we go through the panel. So I'll leave it back to you, and then you know, we are 12 minutes, so that gives a good 3 minutes, 4 minutes.
Yeah, as I say, what I would like to see within Malta is people having more appreciation of their wastage. I mean, we have recycling, and we have a lot of publicity about trying to reduce your household waste, but nothing on with regard to food, except that it can go into bio recycling. So yeah, that's what I'd like to see is a nationwide publicity campaign on that.
Do you think that we need this to be structured, or do you think that we can do it through educational programs, and or do you think it could be haphazardly put like we need food whenever we need food and we ask for it? Or do you think that like the food bank is a structured organization, do you think that collecting the food needs to be structured? I'll give one example. In Switzerland, where my better half is from, when it came to paper, which is something very common, school children went out once a month collecting newspapers, which then they resold to the industry to get money for their library. Now, using that concept for something else, do we have the food bank? Can the food bank be like a mobile bank where we can go and collect, or can it be just a structure where people will, not people as in individuals, but more retailers, bring us their donations? And I don't want to be just excess, because we speak of donations as being the excess. And when donations is when you are seeing that the market is slowing down and you want to move it, and anything like this. So with regards to that, your closing statement, and then we go off to Sylvan, I think is the next in line.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that is what the food bank here in Malta is trying to do, is to facilitate such donations and encourage all across from households through the manufacturers, and then we have producers, we have food importers. So to make donations, yes, and as well as their excess. So yeah, it is should be a formal educational campaign. It needs some government backing, some legislation to give it a push. But yeah, at the moment we're working on a haphazard basis and on approaching individuals. There's hotels who've shown an interest in giving us their remaining meals and things like this. So we would wish to work towards formalizing that. Thank you. And thank you very much, Lino.
You're welcome. Thank you, Annie. I would like to bring in Sylvan, because I'm going to the order. Sylvan, your closing comments, please, with regards to what would you like to see, and what improvements can the current system have to experience less food waste?
Yes, basically, as I already mentioned in the previous comments, I would like to, as Annie said, to have more kind of educational campaigns backed up by the government that supports such initiatives. And from the current system that the Malta Food Bank Foundation is using, I mean, I want them to have more, they would be more supported even by the government, so that such a good cause could be enhanced, and more entities will be benefiting from such initiative.
Thank you very much. I would like to bring Ronald in.
Yes, my comments have already been said. So what I wanted to mention was that the Malta Food cannot function all by itself. It can only help so much. But if the ministry goes hand in hand and helps by doing publicity, especially starting from schools, I think this would be a progressive, a good progress to educate people to participate in donation, on this donation of food. That was my comment.
I suppose that Lino has a problem with his connection.
Apparently it's not his day today with connection.
Okay. So is there anyone else who would like to give some closing comment?
How about you, Rita? Okay, Lino's back.
Sorry about that. Just keep on.
All right, Rita.
Coming and going. Okay. So we're go on, Irene. Sorry.
It's okay. Maybe Rita would like to add something to what has been said.
Sure.
You need to unmute the mic, Rita.
Okay. Well, actually, I only got to know about the food bank recently. Irene always tells me whenever you want food, let me know. My suggestions are the same as everybody spoke about. To tell you the truth, I still have to do some research and get to know about you and how it goes about. I mean, but I did get help. We are an NGO. We help vulnerable women, mostly in prostitution. It's a drop-in center. We open every day from Monday at 10 till 4. They come here, they can take breakfast, they shower, they can do their laundry, and we give them lunch, and then obviously tea, and then a packed lunch. In between, they have the services of social work, counseling, lawyers, and we have a clinic here, we have a doctor that takes care of their health, and we try and help them holistically. We don't do anything special, little things, but I mean, we see them moving forward. And thank you for your help.
Thank you, Rita. Can I bring in Angela Frigo, please, for your ending closing comments, and then we'll leave the floor to Irene Schembri. Angela?
Yes, thank you very much, Lino. So I will be very brief, and then I will leave the floor to Irene. So first of all, I would like to thank you all for what you are doing every day in Malta, because what you are doing really makes the difference in Malta, but also in Europe. And what I would like to wish you is that the dialogue that you have already started and that we are doing today will continue also in the coming months and in the coming years, so that this chain of solidarity can grow in your country for the benefit of the food supply chain, but also for the benefit of the charities and people in need in Malta. And I think that an important occasion as this International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste can recall, can remember us the importance of your daily activity can also educate people, but your daily activity is also is raising awareness day by day. So I really want to thank you very much for what you are doing, and we are at your disposal for any support you may need at European level. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. So closing the conference to be on time, because we have a 2-minute window before we can close. So I would like Irene Schembri to conclude, and I think I have not missed anybody, because otherwise I will be in trouble. I don't think so. So Irene, would you like to make your closing comments, please? And thank you very much for being here. I would not be the last one speaking, so I will leave it to Irene. Thank you for being here and for joining us for this 1.5 hour minus the hitches we had before, and for your contribution towards this discussion. So I leave it to you, Irene.
Thank you very much, Lino. It was really important to have someone like you. You were wondering whether you have missed something, but I must tell you that you missed my message. So I expected you to pass it on, so it's okay. I took you for granted. Sorry about that. I was contacted by the ministry saying that the minister was held up in a cabinet meeting and couldn't get away. So this is why he hasn't joined us. Okay, so far so good. With the minister or no minister, the awareness of wasting food and food loss still remains with us. I personally do not like waste in anything. Maybe this is why I'm so passionate about food banking, because I can't see waste, be it food, be it water, be it paper, be it power, be it time, because we can't waste time on the search. So as a closing comment, I would again I would like to start by FEBA, if you don't mind me, Lino. I would start by FEBA, who were always backing us in any problem. And I know it would just be from our side when we do not show that we have problems, because the minute we mention that we are stuck somewhere or other, Angela is the first one who calms me down with the way she speaks to me. That is really, really, really the greatest contribution that they can give. And I appreciate that so very much. And of course, once again, I thank Angela, because she is there, but there's Charlotte, the FEBA team. I can't forget the FEBA team. I can't forget the president of FEBA, who's always listening with open ears, open eyes as well, following what we are doing, and are always there to back our work. Had it not been for our partners, we wouldn't be here. If we do not have partners, we cannot work. We need to give and pass on the food to them. They are the ones who save a lot of food too, because they use it, they distribute it when this is being given to them. I want to thank Annie for her work as well. Unfortunately, from our team, we have Annie today. So many things are happening on a personal level, and so they were all excused from attending in some way or another. Yes, you mentioned the dialogue that we're talking about today. The dialogue needs to continue, the dialogue with everybody in order to save this food. And what we were planning to embark on is the raising awareness of this blessed before day. So I added another B in front of BBBD. So blessed best before date. As I am fully conscious that in most households, they just look at the product. If the best before date is passed, they simply throw it away. So I think if we can, and this is what as Malta Food Bank Foundation is hopefully embarking on, is a project where we can educate people not to throw away food just because the best before date is over. That food is still good, remains to be good, and it remains to be good for quite a long time after that date. Perhaps one other thing that I would like to mention here, when there is, as an example, an abundance of tomatoes, of course, households can use those tomatoes, cook it into sauce, turn it into sauce and freeze it. And there we go. We don't throw it away. And there was a comment by Ronald. He doesn't seem to be with us any longer. Okay, Ronald said that so much produce is being thrown away from the crops, vegetables, etc. So much one can do in order to save them. Well, this I learned through my participations at my participation at the FEBA training and all their conferences and meetings that we have. Well, here's Ronald again. Okay, so I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us, for the speakers. We had Annie, we had Sylvan, and we had Ronald. The last but not least, once again, to Lino for coordinating our stakeholders meeting. Thank you once again to everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
One last thing before ending the
Yes.
meeting. So on behalf of FIBA, I would like also to thank you again, all of you. And we would like to invite you also to go back to the platform, because this afternoon there are still other conferences and meetings that you can follow. So don't hesitate to go back there and have a look. The event is open until tonight. So now I will just finish the meeting with a small video, and then I wish you all a good afternoon. Thank you all. Goodbye. Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you very much.
Everybody too. Thank you. Bye.
J'ai vu sur cette. Ouais.
C'est dingue.
J'ai vu.
Ils ont au moins jeté.